Trump is going to deport 13 million people. That's an ass load of people.
$315 billion. That's one staggering cost estimate for Donald Trump's signature campaign promise.
The largest domestic deportation operation in American history.
I think people would support that. Even knowing how much it costs, I think that a lot of his supporters would be in favor of that.
Conservative estimates are still enormous. One group puts it at $162 billion. That's
so
more
bad.
than the government spent on most federal agencies in fiscal year 2024.
Yeah, again, that's what a lot of people, yeah, exactly, get rid of those and deport people instead. Yeah, that's what I think people want.
Explain why an operation of this scale could require hundreds of billions of dollars over the course of a decade.
Is it your plan to deport everyone who is here illegally over the next 4 years?
Well, I think you have to do it, and it's a very tough thing to do.
That means roughly 13 million immigrants who entered the country illegally are at risk of deportation.
That's right.
About 4% of the U.S. population.
Oh.
To put that into perspective, the entire U.S. prison and jail population in 2022 was around 1.9 million people.
Scale is difficult for the government to carry out.
I'm going to be really shocked if they can actually deport that many people. I think what's going to end up happening is that they're going to deport, they're obviously going to do priority deportations, right? Where they're not going to immediately start deporting grandmas that have been here for 50 years. They're going to probably start deporting people that are, young people that have committed crimes. I will be shocked if they end up deporting everybody. Yeah, gang members, basically, and that's what you would want them to do, right? Like any logical person would say, okay, focus on solve the biggest problems first, obviously.
Clint Melnick is a senior fellow at the American Immigration Council, a liberal immigration group.
Trump would have to do more than quadruple current ICE removals of people arrested in the interior just to hit the levels that we've seen previously under Obama.
I think that you take a sequential approach to it. You start with what's achievable. Let's start with 1 million.
The details of the plan are still being worked out.
He's right. That's the right way to go about it.
But let's say Trump does decide to deport 1 million people a year. That could still cost about $88 billion annually and take 11 years, according to one estimate. And that's assuming 20% of people would leave on their own.
Yeah.
Yes, it's expensive, but the trade-offs, I think, are well worth it.
Ron Vitello led
I think that if you interviewed the majority of people that are like Trump supporters, I think that they would overwhelmingly support that. I'm just making this up, right? But if this is my temperature check, I think that almost all of them would support that, even if the cost was astronomical.
The Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, known as
Deport
ICE,
criminals
for a
first?
year
Yeah,
in Trump's first term.
Right now, the government is underfunded for its ability to detain people. To be able to accomplish this and the border mission simultaneously will require a reallocation, if not an infusion for resources.
Other immigration experts say the actual cost of Trump's mass deportation plan will be much lower than the American Immigration Council's estimate of $315 billion.
A more robust enforcement like
it would be logical that their interpretation of how much it would cost would be higher because they're probably in favor of some degree of illegal immigration if they're a liberal mindset. I think that that's generally how the party lines are for these different topics. So it would logically make sense that they would come up with a higher number because a higher number would make the plan seem less feasible. So I wouldn't necessarily trust that number to begin with.
Administration is contemplating may create significant economies of scale.
Stephen Camarata is the director of research at the Center for Immigration Studies, a group favoring immigration restrictions that helped staff Trump's first term.
Once you start doing it and you get an infrastructure in place, then it might be a lot cheaper.
Deportation starts with arrest.
He brings up a good point that a lot of it is getting the system started and the cost of doing that. And that system start cost is kind of a fixed cost that's amortized across all of the amount of effort that's going to be put into it.
Targeted arrest. We'll know who we're going to arrest, where we're most likely to find them based on numerous investigative processes.
We're starting with the criminals, and we got to do it. And then we're starting with others.
Trump says
that's
dreamers, or people who entered the U.S. illegally as children, might be an exception. To make arrests, ICE officers would either identify someone who's already in a jail or prison, or go to a person's home.
The majority of undocumented immigrants are not in law enforcement custody. Most of them have never committed any offenses.
Arresting people out in the community, known as at-large arrests, isn't a common tactic for ICE. Vitello says it's more...
I think that's what people want to change, because they don't think that it's proactive enough. Yeah, why are these super-ranking guys so stupid? I don't think they're stupid. Yeah. They committed an offense when they came here illegally. Well, what he's saying is that they never got arrested by the police.
more logistically complicated and more expensive, but it's at the center of the Trump administration's
Because, the police have, this, it's stupid, right? But the police, there are, the known illegals and the unknown illegals, where it's by the nature of some people entering the country illegally, they are, in fact, undocumented. So it's hard to quantify how many people there are. And so you have that factor, but there's also people that they do have a number and this person is here illegally, and there's a process for getting rid of them. So it's both things.
I'm not concerned that they won't be able to find them. It's just a matter of time, given the circumstances, given the availability of information, and given the resources in play.
At-large arrests often require multiple federal agents and take several days because ICE officers don't generally have warrants.
Immigration violations are not criminal, which means that a judicial warrant to arrest them would not have probable cause. They might have to wait hours for the person to leave their house. They might have to stake out a work site.
To carry out arrests at this scale, the American Immigration Council estimates ICE would need to hire over 30,000 new law enforcement agents and staff, making it the largest law enforcement agency in the federal government.
That's a lot.
Vitello says this number is overstated, and that state and local law enforcement could be directed via task forces to help with at-large arrests.
I think a lot of people would sign up to do it too. Yeah, I do. I actually think that a lot of the media vastly underestimates how many people just want to get the illegal immigrants out of the fucking country. I don't think that they really care if you're a dreamer, if you're, a criminal. I don't think that most people really give a shit at this point. I think maybe if you looked at this issue in 2020 or 2016, people probably did care more, or at least they pretended to care. I think now they don't. Yeah, get them out. Yeah, get them out. That's it. Literal Nazis. I don't think deporting people for being in a country illegally is being a Nazi. I think that you do a disservice to actual Nazis by comparing the two things. You're making them seem like this is just a difference of opinion. It's the opposite of Nazi. Yeah, it's very, very dangerous. You shouldn't be saying that.
They already do.
Having that referral system, having state and locals help ICE officers do their job.
Somebody says, what are they going to do? Who are they going to blame their problems on when brown people are gone? Ask Kanye West.
Better to have it than not, but not definitive in whether they do the work or not.
Then there's detention, the most expensive part of the whole process. It costs around $200 a day to hold someone in ICE custody. Congress has provided enough funding for at least 41,500 detention beds in fiscal year 2025. But that's not nearly enough to detain 1 million people a year.
People say such childlike thinking. You realize Jews have been scapegoated by 109 countries have expelled Jews? You can say it's childlike thinking, but no, that's what's going to happen. After they get rid of the illegals, they're going to blame everything on the Jews. They're already doing it. That's what's going to happen.
According to the American Immigration Council, ICE would need to construct 216 soft-sided facilities every year for 11 years.
That's a lot.
Soft-sided facilities are temporary tent-like structures that have typically been used near the border.
Yeah.
Anyone not physically detained would be placed on electronic surveillance, which costs approximately $4 per person per day. Private contractors involved in every stage of the detention process could drive up prices even more.
Contractors drive people in between ICE detention centers or drive the vans after somebody's arrested.
Detaining children would also make this process more expensive.
I don't want to be breaking up families, so the only way you don't break up the family is you keep them together and you have to send them all back.
Family.
Oh, man. Oh, boy. Wild? Yeah. Well, here's the thing. As I said, I think this issue and the amount, like the level of radicalization people have displayed on this issue, I think is really indicative of what's to come. I think it is. I'm not mad. Bye-bye. Yeah, I actually think that, like, if you go and you read the comments on this, let me see what the $2 trillion spent in Afghanistan. How does it cost $200 to keep somebody in a cage? This will be a huge cash grab for private contractors. Why does Trump need any funding at all? Let the employers who break federal law pay for it. The government's not overfunded, it's overspending. Imagine creating a problem so big it'll be too expensive to fix. Almost all of these comments are agreeing. They're almost all positive.
Detention is the most expensive kind of detention because the U.S. government is required to give people minimum standards, and those children need to have child welfare professionals on site. They need to have pediatricians on site. There needs to be a provision for them to get schooling if they are going to be held for months or potentially years at a time.
Vitello says one way the government could reduce costs is by repurposing existing...
I've got a feeling that there are a lot of people out there that don't think that's as important as he does. I've got a feeling. Yep.
Detention centers like Guantanamo Bay.
A third country like a Panama, potentially Mexico, could agree to hold third country nationals so that their due process could be adjudicated, thereby lowering the costs and kind of sending a message down the pipeline that people are not going to be released into the United States to await those adjudications. That alone will reduce the number of individuals trying to cross the border illegally.
Camerata says there are over 1 million immigrants who could be detained at a much lower cost.
There are people with a final order of removal that we just never made leave. Those individuals shouldn't have to be held long. We can get them out.
That's obviously what they're going to do. They're going to, obviously you go for the low-hanging fruit. I mean, duh. It's the same with anything, right?
Very quickly.
After detention comes legal processing, which immigration law experts say is the biggest bottleneck in the mass deportation process. An additional 10.6 million cases would require nearly 2,000 more immigration judges and over 1,100 more courtrooms.
There is not only a cost in the immigration court side, but there's also a cost in the ICE side in getting these new prosecutors online. You need support staff for the judges, judicial law clerks, secretaries.
Staffing on...
I don't think that a lot of people care about that as much, and I think that they'll probably end up skipping a lot of that, and nobody's going to give a shit. Yeah, they will wave that away. Yeah, they just won't do it. And this is effectively a really good example of this happening was El Salvador. My understanding, and I apologize in advance if I'm misunderstanding this, but that's my understanding of how Bukele, I don't know how to say his name, dealt with this problem, is that he basically like waived a lot of those rights for the people that were like committing crimes and put them all in jail.
Both sides leads each case to cost over $2,500.
Bukele?
To set up new courtrooms quickly, the government would likely construct tent courts, like those built in 2019 to implement the migrant protection protocols. This was when immigrants living in the U.S. illegally were returned to Mexico to wait for the duration of their court proceedings. They went to tent courts near the border to virtually appear in front of judges.
You could do those hearings much faster, logistically get more judges and more hearings heard in a day.
As with finding new efficiencies in the detention space, that is another thing that has its limits.
Tent-style courtrooms in Laredo, Texas, cost about $16 million to build and $143 million annually.
This is my opinion about this. We spend $1 trillion on the military. So when I see numbers like this and I'm being told that like this isn't possible, how many $1 billion are we spending on like foreign aid to random fucking countries? Stop doing that. Just stop it. Unless we're like legally obligated through NATO or something, stop doing it. Yeah, it's rookie numbers. Yeah, trillions of dollars. Yeah, what are we talking about here? And I think this is a viewpoint that I actually think most people have. I think most people view it as wasteful.
To operate. Once a person receives a final removal order, they have to either report for deportation at a later date or wait in detention until then.
At that point, the U.S. government has to actually arrange the removal. That would involve putting them on a bus and sending them to Mexico. But if they're from any other country other than Canada, that means putting them on a plane and flying them to their ultimate destination.
An operation of this scale could require over 6,000 removal flights per year. For comparison, ICE had around 1,200 removal flights in fiscal year 2023. The average ICE removal flight costs about $17,000 per hour. This number could go up if private contractors who provide ICE with planes and pilots raise their prices.
But there are other assets, right? ICE has its...
I do think also the government should try to recoup these costs by fining the companies that have been hiring these people. Because, like, really it takes two to tango. And in a lot of cases, the reason why these people exist in the United States and they're basically just, like, you know, able to, like, make money is because companies and individuals pay them under the table. And so, like, really, who should be paying for this? Well, it should be the companies that willingly hire people and knowingly hire people that are here illegally. It's that simple. NATO's obsolete. Well, I mean, personally, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think NATO's important, but that's, again, it's not really the issue. I don't want to debate that. You know, everybody's going to have different viewpoints. That's whatever, right? It's totally different. But I do think, yeah, you should find, and also find the individual immigrants. Yeah, you're right. Like, if they have bank accounts and, like, they have money here, get that money. Absolutely. Fuck that. Yeah, if they're coming here, spending, you know, making money here illegally, then get that money too. It's not even a question.
Number of its own aircraft that are already in service today. The Justice Department, the Marshal Service, has their own transportation aircraft. The scale-up need could come from the military.
Trump told NBC News in November that there is no price tag for his plan. Camerata says...
I think that's what people want. Or at least, like, the ones that agree with him, right? There's people who think this is bad, but, like, the ones that agree with him, I don't think that they care about the price.
Cost will likely be spread out over several years because it would be impractical to deport even 1 million people a year, let alone all 13 million in a single one-time operation.
In this case, it's probably hyperbole. What I think he's trying to do is tell everyone, when I take over, the immigration law is going to be back in business. And I think it's going to have a big effect, and then it's going to be up to the public to judge whether he kept his word.
But getting enough funding from Congress will be crucial for an operation of this.
I think what's going to happen is that he is probably going to get, like, maybe 20% or 30% of them. And it's probably going to be a lot of the problem people. And then the rest of them probably, it depends on what happens, like who gets elected after Trump, right? And so, like, if somebody like Trump gets reelected again, then you'll see more of them get deported. If they don't, then you won't see more of them get deported, right? I think it's really just that simple. Yeah, cost of keeping them a year is more. Cheaper to send them home. It's a vital point being ignored. Oh, yeah, no doubt. But you have to keep them here because they, like, you have to figure out, like, legally whether they're here, like, illegally or not, right? You can't just, like, shoot first and ask questions later. Like, you go deport them and then you figure out whether you should have deported them or not. Seems like kind of a problem. Third term, let's go. I mean, we'll see what happens, right? I mean, there's a chance that you know, the Trump presidency shits the bed and it's a huge problem. And then, like, you know, we have some bad situation happen. Who knows what happens? And then, you know, there's, like, no way a Republican wins in 2028. Yeah, it will be. Well, I'm saying, like, it's very possible that this could happen.
Magnitude. Senate Republicans have said that passing a border funding bill will be the top priority next year.
Border security, more bed spaces so you don't have to release people that shouldn't be released, and more ICE agents to deport people who represent a threat to our country and shouldn't be here to begin with.
Republicans control both chambers of Congress next term, but it's a narrow majority, making spending on this scale no guarantee.
To my Democratic friends, I think if you resist rational deportation policy, you do so at your own peril.
I actually think he's right. And I think that what he said isn't actually accurate entirely, or it's not telling the full picture. I think that if you resist rational deportation policy, you will then get irrational deportation policy. And I think that like that's really where things are going, and that's what I think is going to happen. Only the rich simps will. Well, I don't know, but I think that's what it is, and that's why I think a lot of people are so extreme about it now. Is that I think people are tired of being called like a, you know, like somebody said, like it's like you're a Nazi, right, for like wanting to deport an illegal immigrant. I think that like somebody hears that and they're like, I don't want to be called a Nazi. That's stupid. And so I'm just going to vote against you, right? I don't think people like that type of emotional blackmail. And it's what really causes a lot of people to push back on it. So, yeah. I have a feeling, what's this, deport the Democrats? Problem solved. Yeah, there we go. And where's the rationality in sending your country into a depression? Because that's what's going to happen. Finance have worked out the numbers again and again. I don't think that I feel like if you have a country that requires a indentured servant slave class in order to exist, you need to figure out a better way of doing business and running an economy. That's really the truth. I mean, I don't think that that's a good thing. And this has been, it's kind of like the same perspective that I have with like the HB1 visas, is that if you rely on an underclass of people that have less protections, less rights, and are being paid less money, and the entire premise of the business model is built around taking advantage of that, what you have is a fundamentally predatory economy. And I don't think that that is a morally good thing. I don't think it's good at all in any capacity. So yeah, that's what I think about it. I mean, I don't really think that's a good argument. I think it's actually a very bad argument. And also, like, and this is something that's like not really discussed a lot, is that a lot of the people who are illegal immigrants, they get taken advantage of in a lot of big ways. And, you know, it's like if they get shortchanged, they don't get paid enough money, you know, they're not being paid fairly. What do they go and do about it? Like, you know, they can't go to the police, they can't sue the person, they can't do anything. So they're in a massive, there's like a massive power imbalance there. And I think that that's something that a lot of people need to realize. They can't get proper medical treatment. Yeah, exactly. Right? But they can get charged too. Yeah, no doubt. But no more rights for H1B1. Yeah, there's the video, by the way. And so basically what I mean by that is like no more rights is that, so a person, and I could be wrong about this, right? And so correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that if you have one of those visas, if you leave that job, you put your visa at risk and you can get sent back. Is that correct? Yeah, yeah, of course, right? Of course, that makes sense. And so basically what happens is that if you have that, you can't change the job. Yeah, exactly, right? What ends up happening is that gives the company an extra level of control and a distortion of what the normal relationship with the company would have with an employee. So like with an American citizen, you don't have this extra layer of fear of getting deported from the entire country because you leave the job. So logically, a company could treat a person who's on one of these visas worse because that person has more to lose if they say no. You see what I'm saying? I feel like a lot of that makes sense. If you choose to go somewhere else, you have to have the company that you're going for be your new sponsor. Yeah. And so it's modern slavery. It's not slavery, it's just a distorted power structure, and it's not healthy for these people, right? To say that it's slavery, no, it's not really slavery, but it's just it's a distorted and asymmetrical power balance between the people that are seeking out these jobs and the companies that are providing them. And it provides an incentive for companies to take advantage of people. And if you're taking advantage of like Indians or, you know, Chinese people or, I don't know, people in Malaysia, whoever's coming over from like H-1B visas, that's bad, right? Because those are still people. It's the same as the illegal immigrants here. Like these are people that are being taken advantage of. And so like effectively by allowing it to happen, you create an underclass of people that are prime for exploitation in a bunch of different ways. Not just one way, but a bunch of different ways. So yeah, I'll look at a few more. You just described slavery. They're not slaves. They're just not. I mean, like I understand, like it's just not. Like, it's just, I don't know why people have like this huge problem with like the emotional weight of vocabulary, and they can't think about things logically. It's just simply not slavery. It's the same thing I said about terrorism, right? It's like these like emotional vocabulary hyperbole words like Nazi, slavery, terrorism. Let's just try to look at, yeah, it's extremist language. Yeah, it's very crazy. Helping a child, yeah, people think hyperbole equals reality. I think that people create the hyperbole in order to try to back people down from positions because they're afraid of trying to, you know, like being part of that hyperbole. That's what I think it is. It's a half step from slavery. It's not anywhere close to slavery, but it's worse than what we have for average employers here, or employees. Google H-1B requirements, what you're describing is already illegal. Biden, DOJ. I'd have to look and see for myself. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you'd have to give me a better example than that. Got ban appeals and their hamster wheels. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, we do need to do ban appeals again. There's a golden visa option too. Yeah, the O1 visa. Yeah, if that's what you're referring to. I'm just not 100% sure on that. So yeah, it's a bit of a false line to take on the visa thing. They're talking about issuing visas to the top 0.1%. They aren't serving staff in a restaurant. Well, so, and that's the thing, right? Is like you're talking about like that top 0.1% of people. But the problem is that maybe all of this is just like all fake news, misinformation. But I keep seeing articles and like images posted of like people that have like HB1 visas, and like they're working as like cashiers and like random jobs here, where it's like, do you really think we need to import somebody from another country to be a cashier, or to just like be like an average worker somewhere? Yeah, a janitor, exactly, right? I don't know whether this is true or not because I just haven't really done enough research for it. But I find that to be very problematic, and I think it does go against the idea that, oh, well, this system is just being used for like, your Einsteins and like your Operation Paperclip guys. I don't think that's what's happening. It seems like that's not what's happening. I could be wrong again, right? I'm not an expert in this, but this is just what I've observed. Cheap labor always wins. Cheap products sell. Yeah, but that can be a problem. I think people have forgotten why epistemology is. People don't question why what they hear or why it's said. They just keep acting from this level 1 perspective. Oh yeah, that's definitely true. And if Americans are too lazy or above it, yeah. And I think that is also an issue too. But I don't really know how big of an issue it is. I have no idea. I just have to look and check for myself. There are a lot of illegal workers in construction. I don't know, like, how true that actually is. Like, I don't know. I mean, like, is that true or not? I mean, it's definitely a meme, right? It's a stereotype. Of course, right? Go to Home Depot and there's, like, a bunch of people there that are, like, waiting like it's a fucking, LFG system, in front of Home Depot in the morning. Yeah, I don't know whether this is actually happening. I'm not sure. And I'm not, again, I don't want to have to take a stance on this because I just don't know. That's all. But of course, I think logically it would make sense, sure. It is in the South? Yeah, no, I'm in Texas, right? And like, so, like over here in Texas, like we have places that are in Spanish here and everything. It's always been like this too. Like you've got to keep in mind, a lot of Texas used to be Mexico. So we have tons of people that are Mexican here. Like it's extremely fucking common. So I never really thought it was anything like problematic or whatever. Mexicans were here before Europeans. Well, yeah, that's true. And so, I can tell you 100%, there's 70% illegals in construction. I've done it for 15 years. Well, that's a problem, isn't it? Yeah. Every legal, hardworking, what's this here? Every legal foreign worker and uses agencies to take a cut of their wages, even if they're on minimum wage, they take a cut, making it so the workers are actually working for below minimum wage. So, this is like near my house. And so, actually, no, just near my dad's house. There's like a house there where a lot of the guys, I think that some of them are probably like that. I mean, I don't really know. I'm just guessing. There's like probably 12 people that live in that house. And like, even like people in the neighborhood have like complained because of like how many like cars are around in that area. So, I mean, I don't know if you guys have had like an area like that yourself because like, you live in an area like this, but yeah. Mexican does not equal Aztec. What the fuck? I don't know. I mean, that's not my thing. It's a cultural issue too. India managers are extremely into nepotism. We do not need that. I don't know. I mean, I don't think that every person from India is going to represent Indian culture. And I think that in a lot of cases, like, and this is, again, I'm talking about right now, like, my personal anecdotal experience, so, like, it doesn't really mean a whole lot. Of all of the people that I know who have immigrated to the U.S., I have seen the most Indian Americans be the most Americanized. They even have the fucking accent, they wear the clothes, they're into NASCAR. It's like they're the entire fucking thing. But this is just, again, this is just my personal experience. I think you mean Amerindians instead of Mexicans? Well, I think it really depends. I mean, like, we had a lot of Eric Garcias, right? And, like, you know, David Hernandez's in my high school. Like, I mean, my high school was like 70% Mexican. Like, I think it was like 70% Mexican, like 10% white, and like 15 or 20% black or something like that. I don't remember. It was some dynamic like that. And so, yeah, it was a lot different. Oof, American Cope, I guess you're Mexican now? I mean, I don't know. This is like just me, personally. I feel like I have more in common with a Mexican here than a white person in, like, I don't know, Minnesota. Like, in terms of, like, values, like, life experience, etc., I have more in common with them. Yeah, I mean, yeah, why shouldn't you? Yeah, of course, right? I mean, fuck. Yeah, we eat the same food, we go to the same place, we have the same, like, culture, pretty much, right? I mean, you know, white people drink Bud Light. I guess they drink, like, you know, Corona. Like, what is this? It's like nothing. Basically, it's the same thing. Chris, yeah, there you go. Modelo, there, yes, it's Modelo. It's, Corona, Modelo, and there's one more. Oh, God, what's the other one? Tecate? No, there's another one besides that. Fuck, I forgot. Pacifico? Dos Equis, yes, there you go. Yes. Which, by the way, I don't like drinking, but when I did drink, you know, socially, Corona was always my favorite. I like Modelo and Corona more, so fuck, I don't know what to say. So, yeah, growing up, like, I grew up in, like, a very kind of, like, multiracial area, and, like, pretty much, I mean, and you can see this from, like, photos of, like, my friends when I was a kid. This is my old room. So, I mean, this is, like, Cody, Cameron, and so, like, we grew up in a very multiracial area. And, like, this was just normal for us. And this was, like, me with my video camera, and, like, that's Zach McElreevy. That's Cody, Don John. Cameron just is, you know, went to Oklahoma, you know, apparently was a basketball player at college, married I think Cody said he married a white volleyball player. Fucking W. And as far as I know, he's doing great. I think he's doing something in electricity, right? And so, yeah, there you go. No girls? No, this is us playing World of Warcraft. There you fucking go, man. And, anyway, so, yeah, they, like, growing up, like, that was my life, and, you know, I just never really, you know, just never really, like, that type of a thing for, like, the racial or, like, thinking, like, there's a big difference there. Why, wait, I have that pirate flag? Oh, yeah, no, I mean, like, yeah, it didn't matter. Yeah, no, we just never really thought about it that way. Back when times were simple. Yeah, things were really good back then, man. I remember... Oh, God. Oh, God. I remember in high school, we had a clan in Halo 2, and the clan's name was like, it was like N-word killers or something like that, but like the first letters were switched. And my dad sees this, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, how are you a part of this? This is disgusting. And I'm like, no, Dad, you don't understand. Pa, you don't understand. I'm the only white person in this fucking clan. Nobody took that shit seriously at all. And yes, no, I'm serious. That's the way it was. Yes, and people would just say this shit and be racist. Yeah, you don't understand. No, I'm the only white person here. The token white guy. No, I literally was. We would be making calls in Halo 2, and I remember Angel and Joaquin, his older brother, and Bobby would call me white boy. And we'd be playing, and like my dad's like, "Is that you?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." Yeah, that's it. Did you get the pass? Back then, everybody had the pass, okay? Yeah, let's just say that. You stuck out? Yeah, those are my boys, man. Absolutely. Anyway, I'll try this out. So apparently a really big patch for this game came out. I don't know exactly what it is. I haven't played Power World, as you guys can see, since December 9th. Wait, actually, that's kind of recent. Oh, that's right. I logged on because of the ball issue. It was the ball. Remember the balls? No one cared back then? No, nobody cared back then at all. Like, there were so many stupid stories. Oh, God. Like, I remember there was a guy that was in an older grade than me, and I would get home from school early, and I would play Halo with his little sister, and I would flirt with his little sister and send her DMs, and then he would get home and he would read them, and he'd be so fucking mad. And I was like, too bad, I'm gonna keep doing it. Yeah. Oh, God. Those balls, yeah, I was in like, I think 8th or, no, it was like 9th or 10th grade or something like that. Send a purple ball? Yeah, stay mad. Oh, man. So, let's see.